Hey everybody, this is Joe, and I have a brand new board. Ridden it a little bit around the park, but I'm here at the shop, at the bike shop, which is also a skateboard shop if you know what tools to use. And I am going to go through my setup, how I set it up, and why. And we're going to cover things like truck and base plate alignment, bushing assembly, pivot cups, and bearing maintenance and choice of lubrication. So to start, so this is for your typical skateboard. This is how it's going to be. And so right here I have a straight edge. And so to make sure that your trucks are completely in line with each other, you can use a straight edge to do just that. And then you tighten down your bolts, zippity zip zip, and now you won't be riding all crooked and wonky. One of the things that I found that really kind of bothered me, or just bothers me when you get new trucks and bushings, that it tends to like squeak a little bit, and all that squeaking comes from the urethane and metal rubbing up against each other, and it's really kind of sticky and it just wants to grip, but it doesn't, and so it makes the squeaky noise. And the way you get rid of that squeaky noise is you just put a little thin kind of film of grease in between the metal and urethane surfaces that are touching each other. And that pretty much solves that issue. And then for long-term durability, you've got this little pivot cup right here. You can replace those once they get worn out. But generally I've found that the reason why they get worn out is because you've got this little metal nub here just kind of working back and forth inside there, making the hole bigger and all that not so good stuff. And the way that you combat that is you just give it something lubricous to not wear against. And so what I like to do is I like to put a little bit of paraffin wax inside there, and that pretty much kind of solves that issue of it wearing out too prematurely. Okay, so we've got our trucks lined up, we've got the bushings quiet, the pivot cup is lubed with that wax, which is honestly what I found in my experience of 15 years of skating. That's what works the best. And then now we're going to move on to bearings. There's so many videos on YouTube. They're like, check out how fast my bearing is. It spins for like 2 minutes or whatever. It means absolutely nothing, and we all know that. And what really matters with bearings is, one, how clean are they on the inside, of course. How well are they sealed? What kind of seals do you have there? Obviously, if you have a bearing that spins like this, that is a non or low contact seal, and it is making hardly any contact with the inner race. That's gonna, decrease friction, a little bit, and that helps out if you're going for speed or the distance, but honestly, it's not that much friction, and it doesn't zap that much, energy out of your roll. It's very negligible, and not a lot of people seem to really realize that. They just kind of go by the super light load test, which, come on, like, you've got a quarter of your weight plus the board on this wheel, and you're distributing that between two bearings, and there's hardly any friction because of those seals. The majority of the friction that you're going to experience from rolling is going to be your wheel choice. You know, how efficient that is, how high the rebound of your wheel is, how large the wheel is, how soft the compound of the urethane is. That goes into way more of the amount of friction that you will lose from your setup than bearings. Just plain and simple, honest truth of it all. And so the best way for me, honestly, obviously this is, you know, well, these are brand new bearings, and they've got the lube that came from the factory in them. You know, it's like marked like maybe 2 drops of sewing machine oil, pretty much, and you know, they're a little dirty. You can kind of hear some grumbliness in there. It's like little bits of sand. I don't really care for that too much. So what I recommend, you know, for bearings, you know, lubrication, you know, what should you use? Well, let's use some high quality bearings. Bones Reds are perfectly fine for skateboarding. I mean, you know, all kinds of shock loads that you're going to experience on your bearings are pretty severe, and they're going to damage pretty much every bearing, any bearing that you put in there, no matter how good they are. Even if they're like a super nice, you know, NTN, FAG, or you know, what is it, NKS, something like that. Just, you know, super high quality industrial bearing company. You know, even if you go that route, it's still going to get damaged because you've got these really sharp high load impacts from dropping stairs, you know, landing ollies, you know, all that stuff, you know, on these super hard little wheels. You know, that's a lot of load. It's gonna wear out anyway. But what can help the most to protect all of the rolling elements and the races of your bearing, what helps protect those the most is proper lubrication. Little sewing machine oil is going to kind of move out of the way, and you're going to get some metal to metal contact for sure. So what I recommend for lubrication for bearings, even though you're like, oh, but it doesn't spin very well, it's just going to be like, it's going to do that, is some grease. Put some grease in there. I got some Philwood waterproof grease, whatever. You know, just some bearing grease that is going, you know, high quality bearing grease that's going to do the job. And that will be much better than some really thin oil, because it's just going to keep the metal components from touching each other and wearing everything down. Even though it's not as impressive, you know, from, you know, whatever point of judgment that is and what that's worth to you, you know, it's going to carry you the same distance. You know, it's going to have about the same amount of friction. Maybe it's going to have a little bit more, of course, but the amount of friction that grease has compared to, you know, a really light oil is really not all that much. And when it comes to skateboarding, if you're riding in a park, the predominance of your friction and what's slowing you down is going to be your wheel choice and how baggy your clothes are. So put some grease in there, do your bearings a favor, and they'll last a lot longer for you. So that's pretty much it. You know, we got everything lined up, got everything not squeaky. It's all super solid in the trucks and how it feels. It snaps back to the middle position. You know, you don't have any sticky trucks wanting to stay turning one way or the other. You know, and because my board it's a twin tail. It's like this. It's perfectly symmetrical. That's just kind of my style and how I like to ride it. You know, I've got both of my trucks, you know, set up the same exact, you know, feel on both of them. So it feels identical either way I ride. And then, just in case you're interested, it's an 8.5 board width And then we got some 53 millimeter wheels, 103A, which is technically incorrect. It's more like 82B or something like that, because the A shore scale only goes up to 100. But you know, that's marketing. 103, whoa, it's super hard. You know, an 82 or 83B, whichever it is, that doesn't seem very hard because the number is the most obvious thing besides the letter that comes after it. Anyway, and then I've got your typical, you know, 36 degrees pop angle, and you know, that's pretty normal for most professional riders these days, and most typical setups. It's going to be like that. Yeah, and you know, some hollow axles, hollow kingpin. Yeah, makes it a little bit lighter. Every little bit helps, right? That's why I'm doing this video. So, thanks for watching. Stay rad. Keep doing cool things. And yeah, keep skating. Thanks.